Howdy do y'all, this is John and today we are talking about The Accountant 2, a new movie on theaters right now. And in The Accountant 2, it deals with this man who is an assassin, kind of freelance, and he gets this new case involving this, young girl who went missing along with her son. And in doing so, he unravels this huge thing involving the drug cartel, human trafficking, all that kind of stuff. And this time, because as you can tell, this is a sequel, he has teamed up with his brother. First of all, a quick disclaimer. I have not seen the first Accountant movie. I honestly will admit I meant to do that before going into this one, especially considering it's like right there on Amazon Prime, and I have that. But I just never got around to it. So sorry about that. However, Accountant 2, I liked a lot of things about this movie. First of all, the actual lead character, his name is Chris, and, he's an assassin. Specifically this kind that they call an accountant. He, the whole accountant thing is literally his disguise. Because he's good at numbers. He's incredible at numbers. And, when he goes on a job, so to speak, he hides as an accountant. Also, unlike a lot of other recent movies, when it comes to this stuff, this, character Chris, he does have autism. However, it's done in a fashion that actually benefits the character. He has quirks. He has, these oddities. And I know this from experience, considering, I myself am a high-functioning autistic. And most, movies that have these autistic characters in it, they completely screw the whole thing up. Because it's either so blatantly obvious that it's being done for representation's sake, that's really annoying, or they treat it as a superpower even though it's just a neurological disorder. Nothing special about that. But in this movie's case, it really was kind of the only way to create this character, create Chris, and make him interesting. Because let's face it, Chris would probably just be a one-note action hero without that, And Ben Affleck, he plays this character really well. I'm not going to say it's his best performance, because I have seen him do better. However, he does a good job, and I commend him for that. And he also has this brother, and I really like the brotherly dynamic between the two. Not only do they have, a brotherly bond, but they're also complete opposites. His brother, Braxton, I think his name is. Braxton is literally the polar opposite of Chris. Chris is, kind of shy, introverted, reclusive. The only time he really spends outside of his house is when he's on a job. Whereas, Braxton's easygoing partier, just likes to hang around, talk all the time, that kind of stuff. Jon Bernthal plays him, incredibly, and the dynamic between these two, between Ben Affleck and his character Chris, and Bernthal and his character Braxton, terrific. I also like the story of the movie. I don't know if it's a rinse, wash, repeat of the first Accountant movie, but I do know that, this story, it's really well written. There's a lot going on in this film, and believe it or not, they were able to pull that off while still being able to make everything make sense. All the twists and turns when they're trying to find, the cartel, when they're trying to find this assassin, when they're trying to find, these missing kids. At the end of the day, it all works. The writers really did their homework and really, put their best efforts into making everything make sense. Because like I said, you know, it's a complicated story, but it's never confusing. And as far as the combat goes, the combat is sweet. I'm serious. Some of the best combat I've seen all year. As a matter of fact, maybe it is the best combat I've seen all year. But it's brutal, it's hard hitting. You know, you feel the punches, you hear the gunshots. You know, heck, I think it's this one of those rare few movies that actually has the sound, like the actual sound a suppressed gun makes in it. Because there's not a lot. Most guns, when they have a suppressor on in movies, they sound like air guns. I think I heard actual gunshots. They're not silencers, okay? They don't silence anything. And also, I'd like to commend the special effects department. From what I understand, you know, these accountant movies are not very expensive. And, you know, to be quite honest, the special effects department, like, they deserve a lot of credit for this film. Because I don't know how effects heavy it is. I would not be surprised if the effects are actually kept to a minimum, but you hardly even notice them, if there's any at all. There's no blatantly obvious CGI. There's no blatantly obvious green screens. You know, the effects team did a real good job on this film. Now, in terms of, like, problems with the film, there is, in fact, another assassin character in the film. And, you know, she specifically works for the bad guys. And, you know, they did add some stuff to her that I kind of question the logic in that decision. Because at the end of the day, she doesn't really do much. So why bother have her have some kind of special connection with a lot of the stuff that's going on? Why not just have her be just a regular assassin and have her get killed? Simple as that. I also, without getting into any spoilers, think that, you know, they should have upped the stakes significantly with the finale. I'm not gonna spoil it, but, you know, there are some stuff that you should do in an action film that are not present in this movie. They're very important to do, very important to make, you know, the finale much more intense. And yeah, they didn't really bother to put it in this film. So guys, at the end of the day, The Accountant 2, it's a really good movie. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. However, The Accountant 2, you know, it's a really good action film. And, you know, it keeps you interested in what's going on. The lead character and his brother have great dynamic and are, you know, really well written. The acting's pretty good. You know, the special effects team, if they even worked on this film, did a terrific job. And the combat is just intense and brutal. I think you guys will enjoy this movie, and I do very much recommend going to the theater to see it. I'm going to give The Accountant 2 an 8. Well, that's all the time I have for today. Please look forward to more videos real soon. Please hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Please also subscribe if you're new to the channel. And as always, please remember, the Brodetsky will return.